What's up guys, Pop My Pigs for Life here, and today we are kicking off the new year with our very first Jurassic World Evolution 3 video. I am beyond excited to finally jumping into this game, and especially after all the success that we've had with Jurassic World Evolution 2, I am just beyond excited to get started. So for our very first park, what we are going to be doing is we are going to essentially be building a campsite that has been overrun with dinosaurs. So let me just explain to you guys where exactly I got the inspiration for this idea from. So at the end of August, I went on a retreat with the honors program at my university, and there were all sorts of activities. There was a zip line, which I admittedly was too scared to go on, but we don't need to talk about that. There was a waterfront with all sorts of activities such as kayaking, and as I was kayaking, I was thinking to myself, man, it would be really cool if I saw a dinosaur coming out of the water. And then I realized, wait a minute, we have kayaks in Jurassic World Evolution 3. Or at least we are going to anyway, because that was back in August. So I decided that my very first ever park was going to be a campground, which is going to actually be named Paleocamp. Yeah, I don't really want to steal anything from Camp Cretaceous. This is not supposed to be a knockoff of any sorts. It's just a camp that's been overrun by dinosaurs, and the people in charge of the camp just, you know, decided to embrace it. So yeah, so here's what we're gonna do. So essentially, I've downloaded a couple of blueprints that will help us make this area look a whole lot more like a campsite. And the idea is there's going to be 3 different sections based on what I saw at the retreat. So this is going to be where the guests enter. We're going to have a parking lot, and we're going to have a visitor center. And I downloaded this really awesome visitor center from the Frontier Workshop. That's not it. Come on, where is it? Ah, here it is. So yeah, this is the visitor center that we're going to use. Obviously, I'm going to change the name to Paleocamp. So for now, what we're going to do is right over here. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to put over here, but basically I have this idea of having a little swampy bit for Ostafrikasaurus, which we'll explain a little bit later in today's video what we're gonna do with the whole species that we're using as other species type of trope. Over here I'm thinking is going to be the zip line, so it's gonna start up here and it's gonna go all the way down here. And I'm thinking what we're gonna do is we're going to have cloverleaf formation dinosaurs. So we're gonna have Acrocanthosaurus, we're gonna have a valley of Sauroposeidon and Sauropelta, and then right over here we are going to use the new variant of Deinonychus. Yeah, we are probably never gonna use the old variant of Deinonychus ever again, so yeah. Up here is gonna be the waterfront, so there's gonna be a giant lake. I'm thinking we'll do a little island in the middle, maybe we could put a carnivore, and this is going to be where the kayaking is. So then up here, I think what we're going to do is we're going to have a little bit of a farm slash petting zoo area. Basically, at the retreat, they had a little farm with, you know, they had a garden where they grew some vegetables, they had chickens, they had sheep, they had goats. So we're going to use a bunch of the tiny herbivorous dinosaurs, as well as, you know, a couple of the really, really tiny carnivores. So yeah, so I think that this episode, we're obviously going to start with the entrance, and then we're going to do the zip line, and we are going to, of course, do the little wetland for the Ostafrikasaurus. Again, not sure what I'm going to put here, but also one thing that we have to do is we have to add in some cabins where the guests will be staying the night. So, without any further talking, let's jump right into the time lapse. Okay guys, so the first thing that we of course have to do in today's time-lapse is to add the arrival point so that way we can actually get some guests. Now, to be completely honest, I did have a little bit of a tricky time getting something I liked. I wanted to try and have a tunnel as the entryway, similar to what we have been doing for Conservation Carnival in Planet Zoo. However, I wasn't really able to find anything interesting on the Frontier Workshop. So at the end of the day, what I decided to settle on was a parking lot that I got from the Frontier Workshop, and I decided to hide the entry point building with some rocks. Here you can see that we are placing down the visitor center that I showed you guys. It's really an innovation center, but I'm just gonna call it the visitor center because that's essentially what it is. And of course I did have to switch the sign to say Paleocamp. I'm going to be really honest with you guys and say that I had a bit of a hard time getting a grasp of the modular building system. For one thing, I feel that the modular building system in Jurassic World Evolution 3 is a lot more complicated than in Planet Zoo. And even in Planet Zoo, you guys can see that I am not a builder. I feel like I just don't have that sort of patience to create such intricate structures that you see being built by other Planet Zoo content creators. So because of that, I resort to using a lot of the prefabs, and even more recently I've been using a lot more blueprints that I've been getting from the Steam Workshop. So because of that, it is pretty much all the same for Jurassic World Evolution 3. So now what you can see we are doing is we are working on the zipline. Now, I found this really cool creation from the Frontier Workshop where you have this zipline, but it also looks like it's part of one of those high ropes courses that you see at a lot of summer camps. I believe that there is even a little rock wall here on the zipline up on top of the hill, which I think is a really cool touch. One thing that I did have to experiment with was to build a sort of way down for the guests once they get down the zip line. So I just resorted to using some ladder pieces. That's pretty much what they had at the camp, where if you didn't want to use the zip line, which, yeah, I admittedly was a little bit of a chicken, so if you didn't want to use the zip line, you could just go down the ladder. Yeah, it honestly really didn't help that I had an absolutely splitting headache, probably because I didn't drink enough water. But yeah, I decided not to go on the zip line once I was done with the ropes courses. Yeah, it was pretty scary. So once we finish up the zip line, all we have to do now is to connect the zip lines using some path. I connected it all the way up to the main path that is by the visitor center. And now you can see we are adding in a little bit of a ranger post. I would imagine that they would need these in any camp, regardless of whether or not there is dinosaurs. And now you can see we are creating our very first waterfall in Jurassic World Evolution 3. That is one thing that Jurassic World Evolution 3 has over Planet Zoo, is the fact that it is so easy to make waterfalls. Like, in Planet Zoo, it is just so much more complicated. And one thing that I definitely hope that they add in Planet Zoo 2 is a much better waterfall system like we have in Jurassic World Evolution 3. So now we are working on the sort of wetland area for the Ostafrikasaurus. Now, originally I decided to use this fence that I got from the workshop. However, later on you can see that I decided to replace it with just regular in-game fence. So, speaking of the Ostafrikasaurus, one thing that I want to mention to you guys is what we're going to do about the improved roster. So, essentially, if you guys remember from Jurassic World Evolution 2, we were pretending a lot of dinosaurs were different dinosaurs. So, for instance, Ostafrikasaurus is actually just Suchomimus. We're just giving it the name Ostafrikasaurus so that way we can put in our Tendaguru sections. So a lot of this stuff is going to be very similar. So there's going to be a lot of the same stuff. Like, for instance, using Suchomimus as Ostafrikasaurus. However, there are going to be a lot of changes. For instance, the one that instantly comes to mind is Eutyrannus. So, in Jurassic World Evolution 2, we were using Eutyrannus as Deinonychus. However, now since we've got Psittacosaurus, we will just be using it as Eutyrannus. And there will also be a couple of other changes. So, for instance, Nodosaurus, we were originally using it as Sarcolestes. However, now I think we will be using it as a different Nodosaur, likely Edmontonia. One thing that we will also be using is the difference in variants. So we did that a lot for species such as Giganotosaurus, Dreadnoughtus, Iguanodon, but we're going to be doing it for a couple of other species. So, for instance, the Allosaurus, we have two variants. We have the Jurassic World Evolution variant, and then we have the Jurassic World Dominion variant. We're going to use one of them as Allosaurus fragilis, which was found in the Morrison Formation, and the other one we are going to be using as the African species that was found in the Tendaguru Formation. So yeah, so that's pretty much the gist of the whole species that we're using as other species. I'm not entirely sure what to call it. But now back to the time-lapse. So right here, you can see we are working on the little bit of a hill right above the Ostafrikasaurus enclosure, or wetland, habitat, whatever you want to call it. Basically, at first, you saw that I put a lookout tower, which I got off the Frontier Workshop. It looks really good, by the way. It's really just a viewing platform that is disguised to look like a watchtower in a campsite. But in the end, I decided that we would add in some of the cabins, because realistically, you're going to want the cabins to be pretty close to the arrival point. You don't want the guests to have to walk all the way across the campsite just to get to their cabins. And so here, you can see that we are adding in the Ostafrikasaurus into their habitat. A few of them did get out, so I did have to block the little exit that they had using some rocks. And, of course, we are taking a lot of advantage of the cypress trees that we got in the very first update. So, right now we're sort of just playing around with the barrier between the guest area and the Cloverleaf Valley. That's just what I'm going to call it, is the Cloverleaf Valley. I was playing around with the rocks, and specifically the rock brush, because I didn't want too much of the electrified fence to be visible from the path. So what I ended up doing is, at first, I used the rock brush to go right up against the path. However, even though the dinosaurs can't traverse the rock brush, because it's essentially just a foliage brush, they can still have their territory go onto the other side. So eventually I did replace the rock brush with some individual rocks, and I did also add in a little bit more fence. Of course, it is going to be covered by some of the trees, and now you can see that we are sort of adding in a hatchery, so that way it can make adding the Sauroposeidons a lot easier. Yeah, that's one thing that we're also carrying over from Jurassic World Evolution 2, is that we are using the Jurassic Park 3 Brachiosaurus as Sauroposeidon. So as we're doing that, one thing I also want to talk about is our goal for 2026. So I don't know if you guys remember earlier on last year, I had a goal to reach 175 subscribers before the end of 2025. However, I decided to just drop the goal because of such an irregular upload schedule. However, we did come close. I believe that at the end, we managed to reach 174 subscribers. So this year, I want to see if we can reach 200 subscribers before the end of 2026. So, with that being said, if you're enjoying this video so far, then please consider leaving a like, commenting down below, and subscribing to the channel to see some more videos just like this one. Not only does it help support the channel, but it'll also help the YouTube algorithm in recommending more videos that you might find interesting. And as always, just by taking the time out of your day to sit down and watch this video is showing a tremendous amount of support. So as always, thank you all so much for watching today's video. So now pretty much all we have to do is add in all of our dinosaurs that will be inhabiting Cloverleaf Valley. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for today's time-lapse. Really hope you guys enjoyed today's time-lapse, and I'll see you guys once we're finished with the time-lapse. Alrighty guys, so here is a quick rundown of everything that we've done in today's time-lapse. So, to start, we have got the arrival point. We've got this nice little parking lot we've got over here. Right along here, you go in. This is the entrance over to Paleocamp. We've got the visitor center right here. So now the idea is that this is where guests would eat and drink. This is where they would like have breakfast, lunch, dinner. Yeah, this is the place. They would also, I would imagine, do some indoor team building activities. Maybe there's an auditorium. Obviously, like I said, a cafeteria where they can get food. Things of that nature. Right over here, we've got a lookout tower. Obviously, you can't see anything from here, but, you know, you gotta use your imagination. That guests would be able to look out over Cloverly Valley. You know, go on the balcony, see the Acrocanthosaurus right over here. I love these patterns too, by the way. You've got the male over here, and then the female looks a little bit duller in color. That was not meant to rhyme. But yeah, overall, love these patterns. Right over here, so you go this way, we've got another watchtower looking over the Ostafrikasaurus habitat. Ooh, you can see them swimming. That's awesome. Oh, that is so good. Minus the, phasing through each other. But yeah, no, this is awesome. Like, yeah, you can get a good view of them. Then you would go up here. And these are where the cabins are. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we can actually get a view from the hotels, which is a little bit disappointing. But yeah, no, we've got 3 cabins over here. A little pond going into a waterfall that goes into the pond for the Ostafrikasaurus. Or this isn't a pond, this is a lake. We've got our ranger station over here. And then if you go this way, you can see glimpse into the enclosure. But yeah, no, you go along this trail, and we will do a tour of this park once it's finished. So make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay tuned. So if you want to, you can get a little bit of a view of the sauropods from here. Which, by the way, let's take a look. So these are the males. The males are a little bit of a vibrant green and blue. And then the females are, again, a little bit more, like, brownish, orange type of coloration. So yeah, we got a big old herd in here. We've also got some Sauropeltas. Yeah, same thing. We got, these are the females. And then the males got a lot more color. Or are they socializing? I think they're socializing. That's cute. So yeah, over here, this is just a hatchery I decided to add in order to make adding the Sauroposeidons a lot easier. This obviously is staff only, so they would go down here. This is a really nice blueprint. Shout out to whoever made this blueprint. It's incredible. So yeah, from there, you can go all the way up the hill. You've got this little mountain peak over here. And then right over here, of course, is the entrance onto the zip line. So, yeah. Obviously, the zipline entrance is right here, but hypothetically speaking, there's a little, like, low ropes course that you can go on, but there's also this rock climbing wall that you can go up. Obviously, you would go up zipline. There's a little bit of a ropes course over here that you can go on to get over here. And then I feel like we should go on the zipline real quick. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Whee! You can get a nice view. Nice view of the waterfall. Nice view of the Sauroposeidons, which, by the way, they're so loud. It's crazy. Then you end up all the way back here. And one last dinosaur we need to see, especially, are these absolutely gorgeous Deinonychus. Like, hang on, we need to get a good view. Look how beautiful they are. They are just stunning. Like, such a huge improvement from the original design. Like, I know we still have the original design. Needless to say, we will never be using that old design pretty much ever again. Cute. Oh, here's the male. But we had another male. Yeah, we do have another male. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that we got done in this episode. There are a couple of other little details. Like, for instance, right here I added another rock climbing wall. And then I also decided to do a little bit of work on the waterfront. So we've got the kayak. Yeah, I've been getting this message a lot, saying that amenity coverage is low. Yeah, I know it's low. We're gonna pretend that there aren't gonna be any amenities needed, because we've got this. This is where they get the food. So yeah, we've got our kayak ride. I've got that all planned out, over here. And of course, found this very nice looking restroom that's like cabin camp styled. When you gotta go, you gotta go. So that leads into our plans for next episode. So next episode, we are going to be adding a ton of dinosaurs in this area. So essentially what we're going to be doing is, right over here, we're going to add some Acrocanthosaurus. Over here, we are going to be adding the Dominion Allosaurus variant. We are going to be using that as the subspecies from Africa. And then we are going to be introducing an entirely new fossil formation, and that is the Two Medicine Formation. So in this area, we are going to be including Edmontonia, which is going to be the new substitute for Nodosaurus. We are going to be having Lokiceratops, and we are going to be having Maiasaura. You can see that we don't have any Maiasaura in here, because unlike in Jurassic World Evolution 2, where we were using the Maiasauras as Thanatosaurus, we are instead just going to be using Maiasaura as, well, Maiasaura. So then this island over here, what we're going to do is, this is going to be for Albertosaurus, but we're no longer going to call it Albertosaurus. We're going to be referring to it as Gorgosaurus, because Gorgosaurus, I believe, was found all over North America during the Campanian stage of the late Cretaceous. It was found in the Dinosaur Park Formation, and it was found in the Two Medicine Formation, I believe. So because that, we are just going to be giving it the name Gorgosaurus, and it'll go alongside Maiasaura, Lokiceratops, Edmontonia, right over here. So one thing that I think I'm going to try out next episode is I want to try my hand at some dinosaur breeding. So next episode might not be very time-lapse oriented like my more recent videos have been. Obviously, we are going to have some time-lapse, especially when it comes to configuring these environments for the dinosaurs. But yeah, definitely something I want to do next episode is try my hand at some natural dinosaur breeding. So yeah, with that being said, that is going to wrap up today's video. Really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If so, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to see some more Planet Zoo and Jurassic World Evolution 3 content. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.